webinar is going to get recorded, and I'll be sending the recording to you guys afterwards. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. My name is Eduardo Gonzalez. I'm the founder of Café con Becas College and Career Counseling Services. Thank you so much for joining us today, where we'll be talking about a really important topic in your college application, which is your admissions essay, also known as a personal statement. So this workshop is supposed to be interactive. I'll be asking you guys to participate, and but for the meantime, you can mute your microphones. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to type them in the chat box, and there'll be a section for question and answer at the end. So this is the agenda for the workshop. First, we'll talk about the role of the essay in your application as a whole. We'll examine two different structures that you can follow for your essay and examine some samples so you can identify how the successful essays look like. We will also explore three fun ways in which you can find essay topics for your own essay, and also why and how to show your personal values when writing your essay. Okay, so to start off, there are two main platforms that we will use to apply to college. For those of you who are planning to apply to schools in Texas, there's a platform called Apply Texas. And for schools in Texas and in all the other states, we use the Common App. So the college application, remember, is composed of different elements. We have your high school transcript, the ACT and SAT, even though they're optional for most schools, some schools are now starting to require it as part of the admissions process. We also have your extracurricular activities, recommendation letters, and the essays. So there are two kinds of essays. There's the personal statement, which is the longest essay. It's up to 650 words maximum. And most universities require this essay. And there are supplemental essays as well. These are shorter essays. Not all universities ask for it. And the questions vary. They tend to be between 200 and 300 words maximum. Some of the topics might be such as, why do you want to study this major? Why do you want to come to our university? Or tell us about something else that is important to you. Okay, so we will have a different webinar for the supplemental essays, but today we're going to focus on the longest essay, which is a personal statement. Now, the personal statement can be used for all the universities you're applying to. That means you don't have to write a new one for every single school. You can use the same one and submit it to all schools. Okay. All right, so what's the purpose of the personal statement? The idea behind it is see it as an opportunity to demonstrate to the admission representatives, the admissions committee, the skills, the qualities, the values, the interests that you will be bringing with you to the college campus. That is the main objective. Okay, so whenever you start writing your drafts, ask yourself, am I really showing my skills? Am I really showing my values through this essay? And when we examine the sample essays, also try to see how are the values represented in the essays that we will examine. How are the personal qualities or skills represented in the essays? Okay. Now, and this is important. If you're taking notes, make sure that you take notes about this, because these are the 6 qualities of an outstanding personal statement. After having worked 14 years in the college admissions field, I can definitely tell you that those essays that stand out are those that possess these 6 different qualities, okay? So we're going to examine one by one. But before we do that, I just want you to put everything into context, because for those schools that are ultra competitive, we can take a look at this. For example, UCLA received last year 139,500 applications. NYU, over 100,000. USC, 70,000. UT Austin, 73,000 applicants. And for example, UT here in Texas, 73,000 applicants for only about 6,000 spots. So it's really, really competitive, and it's vital that your essay helps you stand out from the crowd. So how can we do that? How can we be memorable? Okay, so let's take a look at these examples. So I'm gonna ask some of you to unmute yourselves and help us read. Let's see, Andrea, can you please help us read the week example?
I would like to attend the Air Force Academy because I want to become a pilot and get a good college education. I also want to learn how to fly, become a military officer, and serve my country.
Okay, while these might be really, thank you. While these might be really admirable qualities, right? You want to have college education. If you think about it, everybody wants to have a great college education. Everybody wants to have a good life. Obviously, learning how to fly sounds really cool, obviously. So if you are applying to a competitive program, a competitive school, it's vital that you all become memorable. So how can we make it memorable? Check this out. This is how this example, I helped a previous student to transform that paragraph and make it something more memorable. So he says, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. My friend Eric pushed the button and a red rocket whooshed into the sky. It almost disappeared from view before we saw the opening of a small white parachute that would bring it back to Earth. Wow, Eric shouted as we ran toward the landing site as fast as our 11-year-old legs would move. That's the moment I fell in love with aeronautical engineering. So what's something different about this memorable example, Andrea?
It makes it more personal, more connected to your life.
Absolutely. And here, the idea is to transport the reader to one specific moment in your life to catch the attention of the readers. So we're pretty much saying the same story, but said differently. So it's not only what you say that's important, but also how you say it that is equally important. Okay. Now, another important element, element number 2, show, don't tell. For those of you who are already my students, you're gonna hear me say this a lot. Show, don't tell. So what is the idea here? We want to provide details and examples that allow the reader to understand the situation instead of just mentioning it. So this approach, the show, don't tell, can make your essay more engaging, more compelling. It can help you to flow the narrative in a better way. So that's what we want to achieve with show, don't tell. So, for instance, instead of telling the admissions committee, I'm a leader, you would show your leadership through one specific example or story that demonstrates your leadership skills. So let's see, Angela, can you please unmute yourself and help us read? So he says, telling, okay, this is what most people do. Oh yeah, I'm a leader. I'm the leader of the soccer team. Angela, can you help us read the showing?
When Charlotte makes a diagonal run, I make sure to place the ball exactly where her left foot will fall on her next stride, since it's her strong side. Sorry. As Brielle receives a ball, I yell, "Man on," because I know she sometimes forgets to check her shoulder. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I bring an extra water bottle because on those days, Maria comes straight from work to practice and often has no time to refill her water. If I win the pregame coin toss, I ask the ref for a side instead of kickoff because I know Hannah, my keeper, hates looking into the sun during games. As team captain, it's my responsibility to learn each individual player's disposition to provide constructive encouragement for the whole team.
What are the difference here? You play a competitive sport yourself, Angela. What do you see here? The differences.
Definitely a lot more personality, and like it shows how much she cares for her team. Instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm a leader," she like shows in depth how she really, really cares for her team and how she's like demonstrating that she's a leader.
Exactly, exactly. And it also works the way, like, instead of saying, oh, but I really care about my teammates, don't tell me that. Show me how you care. Show me how you really care about your team members. So this is another element that outstanding personal statements possess: show, don't tell. So when I give you, we give you guys feedback on your essays, if you see me write show, don't tell, it means that, okay, let's try to see how we can rewrite this part into a more engaging, more meaningful way. Okay. So quality number one, be memorable. Quality number two, show, don't tell. Quality number three, we have to balance between their two kinds of writing: descriptive writing and reflective writing. Descriptive writing is when you're simply describing something, how something looks like, how something smells like, how something sounds like, what you did, where you went, who you talked to. Those are examples of descriptive writing. Now, reflective writing is when you take a moment to really digest and reflect that event or that thing that happened to you. How did that influence your life? How did that affect your way of behaving, your way of looking at the world? So essays, outstanding essays, are those that have a good balance between these two kinds of writing. So we're going to take a look at this other example. Emiliano, can you please unmute yourself and help us read? Good job, bro.
It says, good job, bro. I said while doing a high five up in the air. No matter the circumstance, I made a commitment to myself at a young age to always hold my younger brother with the same regard as someone without a condition. I promised myself to never lower my expectations, rather adjusting them accordingly. I usually make dinner for both of us when mom is out working. As he closed his backpack, the smell of homemade quesadillas filled the house.
Thank you, Emi. So here we can see the balance between descriptive writing. So here, descriptive, has he closed his bag, the smell of homemade quesadillas filled the house. Like, these sections are descriptive. We can imagine the quesadillas. We can visualize, almost see that we're there. And this part right here is where he's reflecting about how he made a commitment to himself to never, to always hold his brother with the same regard as someone without a condition. His brother was in the special education program. He had special ed. He was in the special ed program. So here we can see that difference, right? So that's another element of strong essays. Next one, personal values. Your values are like your moral compass. Is what tells you what is right, what is wrong. So what is important to you as well. And let's see, Vanessa, can you please unmute yourself and help us read? You're too pretty to be in that sport. It seems that she's having problems with the mic. Let's see, Pedro.
Yes, it says, you are too pretty to be in that sport, and it's really dangerous. Is your mom okay with you doing this? She directed me, very concerned. My mood changed tremendously. I went from a frivolous carefree girl to an offended, mature athlete. I explained to her that I had been practicing Taekwondo since I was 5. I have trained every day, Monday to Saturday, for the past 10 years, and how I have competed and won numerous elite tournaments representing my country. And finally, I told her, I continue to train to prove people like her, like her wrong. I fight to demonstrate that even though this sport is considered to be male dominant, females have the same, if not more, stamina to participate in a aggressive contact sport. To encourage the female population that there is no such thing as that is only for boys.
Thank you. So after reading this, we can really see what motivates this girl to practice Taekwondo. She has been doing that for so many years. And for her, it's more than a simple extracurricular activity for her. She's telling us what Taekwondo represents to her and why she does that, and the internal motivations, the values. So if we pretend that we are part of the admissions committee and we read this part, we can see what is important for this girl. What are her values? So when writing your essay, I'm going to help you identify what are your values, what's important to you, and how can we incorporate them into your essay writing. Okay. So now, before I move forward, are there any questions, or is there anything you guys would like for me to explain more? Okay, so I'm gonna keep moving then. Now we have two potential essay structures that you could follow. You're not going to be evaluated based on which structure you use. These are simply ways in which you can arrange your ideas to tell your story. Okay? So the first one is the narrative form. The narrative form is the one that we're more used to doing in school, which follows a chronological order. There's a cause and effect. Something happens that created the following event, right? There's a cause and effect, it follows a chronological order. That means something happened first, and then something else happened, and then what happened after. So it follows chronological order. This structure, narrative structure, is recommended for those of you who want to talk about a specific challenge in your life, or a specific opportunity you had, or maybe you participated in a summer camp, or something that happened in your life. You can follow this narrative structure. So we'll examine montage in a bit. So narrative structure, your essay, remember, is 650 words maximum. The essay can be divided in 3 sections. The first section would be describing the challenge and how it affected you, how it affected your life. The second section, you can talk about what you did about it. And the third section, what you learned from the experience. Now, when writing, the strategy should always be, number 1, capture the attention of the readers. How can we capture the attention of the readers? With hook sentences. Now, in your English class, they probably taught you how to write using these hook sentences. However, you can always use hook sentences later down the essay, in the subsequent paragraphs. Don't feel limited to only use them in the beginning. Okay, so you have to always make sure that you're capturing the attention of the readers throughout the essay. Number 2, you want to generate interest, generate curiosity, so people want to learn more about you, want to keep reading. You remember, especially some more competitive schools out there where there are 100,000 applicants, we have to really keep them entertained, keep them involved. And number 3, we want to cultivate a desire for them to know more about Okay, so that is the writing strategy we should always follow. Okay, so we have here the narrative essay structure. I'm noticing that the essay prompt is not written, but the essay prompt, I'm going to read it for you. The essay prompt is basically the instructions, the directions. What should you write about? So the essay structure goes like this. It says, tell us your story. What unique opportunities or challenges have you experienced throughout your high school career that have shaped who you are today? This is essay A. For those applying to schools in Texas, this is essay A, the essay prompt. Now, the common mistake that a lot of students make is they tell them about your whole life. Remember, we don't want to tell people whole life. We're going to identify specific moments that are memorable, that can demonstrate skills, interests, talents, right? So let's take a look at this sample essay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start reading, and I'll ask some of you. Let's see. Luis Rodolfo, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I'm going to start the first paragraph, and I'll ask you to help me read where it says Jimena. Okay?
Okay.
It says, she's not breathing. I scream at the top of my lungs, trying to get everyone to help me, anyone to help me. As my other 10 middle school girls stare at me, I suddenly forgot everything I had learned at the camp counselor training.
Jimena was a 13-year-old girl who was allergic to practically everything. She kept running towards me, gasping for air and crying, unable to explain what happened. I felt so scared and remotely as she was my responsibility. At first, I thought she was having an allergic reaction to something she had eaten, but she was in fact having an asthma attack. I will admit, I panicked. I did not act as fast as I should have when. One of my peers came to help and walked Jimena to the nurse. As I followed right behind them, Jimena ran to her room, where she took an inhaler out of her backpack, and finally, after 2 longest minutes of my life, she started breathing again. Seeing Jimena's face, unable to breathe, changed my perspective and proved myself I've been more responsible about my girls. After calling her attention to Jimena for not telling me about her asthma and asking why it's not stated in her profile, I proceed to make a list of my important details.
Thank you. Tamara, allergic to ibuprofen. Luciana, allergic to mosquitoes. Inés, allergic to kiwis. And of course, all of Jimena's allergies. Instead of carrying my fanny pack, I armed myself with a backpack that included all the girls' necessities and medicines. Throughout the summer camp, we took the girls on various trips like New York, Boston, and Newport. Therefore, I needed to make sure I was prepared for an emergency because what happened with Jimena would not happen to me again. I realized I needed to be more alert and calmer when making important decisions to help my girls. As we said our goodbyes, Jimena handed me a folded note, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. As I read her note later, tears filled my eyes. She wrote, thank you for always taking care of me and being the only counselor that remembered all my allergies and always having my medicines on hand. Thank you for treating me like a little sister, and thank you for the best summer ever. I remember immensely started crying as I had felt accomplished and proud of the example I had become for the girls. This experience completely changed me as a person and gave me many new skills that I will use in life. The outcome of something that at first I did not want to do gave me my new life passion. Thanks to all these girls, I learned that I love helping other people and serving others brings me joy. Being a camp counselor for Outbrook Academy taught me the importance of preparation and leadership skills. I look forward in the future studying a career focused on offering a service or helping others to make a positive impact in my community. Okay, so this is an example of essay that follows the narrative essay structure. We can see how it follows a chronological order, right? Now I'm curious to see, let's go back to some of the elements I told you guys that strong essays have. Show, don't tell. Can anyone tell me an example? Feel free to unmute yourselves. Can anyone tell me an example of show, don't tell in this essay? Anyone? By the way, let's do something a little bit different for this part of the webinar. Can I ask you all to please turn on your cameras? Thank you. Yes, everyone else, can you please turn on your cameras? Thank you, Emily. So what's an example of show, don't tell?
The example could be how she literally described the situation, and she at the end she was like, and from this I got like I learned this and this and this and this. Like she didn't just straight go like, oh, I am what do you mean? I like helping people, and that's it, you know. She demonstrated with the story.
With the story, right? Now, how about when this part right here, she's not breathing. How about that opening? Angela, what are your thoughts on that opening?
You can kind of like feel what she was like. You could feel the panic in, I don't know, like you could, I don't know, she makes you like feel the panic she was feeling in that moment.
Exactly. So that's what we want to generate. We want to transport the reader to that specific moment. And she was being honest as well. Like, right? She told me, I admit, I forgot in that moment, I panicked and I did not act as fast as I should have. So she's opening herself up to us. She's being vulnerable. And that's okay because we're humans, right? So it's totally okay. And the objective here is to capture the attention of the readers. Now, how about this part which says the names of the girls, right? Tamara, allergic to ibuprofen. Luciana, allergic to mosquitoes. What are your thoughts, Pedro, on that part?
Well, it just shows the way she prepared herself and became more organized, like in order to avoid any other type of situation.
Exactly. So we go back to show, don't tell, right? Like, don't tell me, oh yeah, I became more organized. Show me how you became organized. Definitely. Okay. Any anything else? So again, we want to you don't have to tell your whole life story, but for this student, she wanted to major in education. So she remember that the application is comprised of several pieces of a puzzle, right? So here, even though she was not telling us specifically, oh, I want to major in education, it makes sense when we put everything into context. It makes sense that she decided to talk about this experience in this summer camp because it's connected with her interest in the major, right? Any questions, thoughts before we move on to the next one? Okay. So the next one is called the montage structure. So for those of you who have watched the movie Up, the Disney Pixar movie Up, you might remember that the story begins with a very short video of how these two met when they were little kids and they eventually grew older. They got married, they bought a house, and they lost their baby, and eventually within a minute, we get to see the whole life, right? There's no dialogue, there's only a background song, a music, and we get to see, you know, specific like parts of their lives. So this is a technique used in filmmaking. So where you can create a new whole from separate fragments. Okay, so in filmmaking, this montage effect helps us condense space and time so information can be delivered more efficiently. In other words, a few images can tell the whole story. And you can use this technique if you don't have one specific topic you want to talk about or one specific moment in your life. And instead, you have many different parts of your life you want to share with the admissions committee. So again, remember that the purpose of the essay is what? Is to share the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you will share with the campus community. So in the montage structure, you are not following a chronological order. You're following a common topic is connecting everything. So we can see here these bracelets, and we can see the beats, the little bolitas here, the beats are all connected through a thread, right? Un listón que está juntando todo. There's a thread that's connecting all of them. So if we use this analogy, we can see how the topic can be that thread, that listón, ¿verdad? Que conecta todo. And the little beats, the bolitas, are little stories. So it's gonna make more sense right now when we take a look. Okay. So we see here the montage essay structure again. Let's see, Miranda, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, can you please help us read the essay prompt in the first paragraph?
Yes. Tell us your story. What unique opportunities or challenges have you experienced throughout your high school career that have shaped you who you are today?
Okay, I believe.
I believe our favorite characters from series, movies, or cartoon tell a lot about our personalities. As a child, my attachment to video games and animated cartoon has been a significant part of my life. While some of my friends lean towards live-action dramas on Netflix, I always found joy in comedy, animated shows. Adventure Time unfolds the story of a human boy and a magic dog searching for adventures throughout the land of Wu. Every time I watch my favorite characters involved in these fantastic adventures, I see a reflection of myself, my life, passions, and values. Allow me to talk about some of these characters.
Okay, then it says, Finn the Human. Andrea, can you help us read Finn the Human?
Friend the Human, a portrayal of self-growth and solidarity. Through the course of this series, Finn changes from being an immature kid looking to fight with anyone to a more serene and pacifist person, helping anyone who requires assistance. In my case, I used to have a lot of energy during my childhood, constantly looking to physically fight with my brother as some sort of game. As time went by, I adopted a more calm and quiet personality. Currently, having participated in a variety of math competitions, I always look for someone who requires help solving a problem, math related or not. From Finn, I've learned to try and help as many people as possible, not only as a sign of solidarity, but because it helps me grow as a person.
Thank you. Jake the dog. Isabella, can you help us read that part?
A representation of wisdom and optimism despite the amount of comedy Jake brings into the series. His character is known for being one of the most wise and inspirational. To live life, you need problems is one of my favorite quotes from him that represent a big part of my life. I struggle a lot when it comes to a general culture, something my friends like to talk the te falta calle, but I always try to approach everything with a positive side. Being optimistic helps me deal with my life struggles with a different perspective instead of feeling sad or angry whenever something goes wrong. I try to see it as an opportunity to improve what I missed. As a wise dog once said, sucking at something is the first step to becoming sort of good at something.
Thank you. Regina Correa, can you help us read the next one? Princess Bubble.
Yes. Princess Bubblegum, a depiction of logic and science from start to finish. The series presents Bubblegum as a lab genius who stands for her ideals and tries to solve every problem using science. Whenever a problem is presented in my life, I always try to find the most logical solution. One time, I had to bring a pilgrim costume for Thanksgiving. I only needed the hat, but I couldn't find it in any store, so I decided to just make it myself. Using some black cardboard and sheets of paper I found in my house. I built the hat by myself without any problem.
Thank you. Carla Garcia, can you help us read, please? Marceline.
Yes, Marceline, portal of change and adaptation. Everything stays right where you left it. Everything stays, but it still changes. This little extract of the song, Everything Stays, tell me something important. The world is in constant change, and nothing is really permanent. When I change schools, my surroundings feel different, even though I stay the same. My background changed. It was an extremely new experience for me, but I managed to make some friends and adapt pretty quickly to the school systems. Listening to these songs reminds me of the importance of adapting and changing with your environment.
Thank you. Cartoons are more than stories to me. They define my background and who I am. I firmly believe that they are part of me and that I wouldn't be the person I am today without them. Cartoons define my origins and my ideals, and I'm sure the lessons I've learned from all of them will help me navigate through life because life itself is an adventure. All right. Now for the next exercise, I'm going to ask you to all please turn on your cameras. So the montage essay structure, as I said, is not following a chronological order, and is each paragraph is telling us a specific feature or a different side of the student, right? So here we can see his interest in math, and here we can see his optimism, and here we can see his love for science, and here we can see the transition when he changed schools. So each paragraph is telling us, is allowing us to explore a different side of him as a person. So this essay structure is really useful when we don't have one specific moment that we want to share, and we want to share lots of different things. Now, remember, let's see, where can we see the example of descriptive writing and reflective writing? Let's see. Regina, where can you see descriptive writing?
In all the three paragraphs?
In anyone? In any part?
Okay. When he says, well, some of my friends lean towards live action dramas on Netflix. I've always found joy in comedic animated shows.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
This is an example of descriptive writing, just describing the situation. Now, reflective, each of these paragraphs is like a beads, right, in the necklace. Each one is telling a side of your life, right? So here, half the writing, half of the paragraph is descriptive, and the other half is reflective. He's showing us like a deeper side. Okay, so this is another great way to tell the story, and then you go. He goes back at the end. He goes back to that reference of the cartoons, right? So in the beginning, he's setting the topic. What is the topic? Cartoons have influenced my life, right? And this particular cartoon, Adventure Time, influenced my life a lot. I'm going to give you a tour, basically. I'm going to show you how each character has influenced my life. And at the end, the last paragraph, he's going back to that reference and moving to the future, right? Like he's saying, cartoons define my origins and my ideals. I'm sure the lessons I learned from all of them will help me navigate through life, because life itself is an adventure. So it's kind of like focusing on the future or what's coming up next. So this is, remember, the purpose of the personal statement is to demonstrate the skills, qualities, values that in interest that you will be bringing with you to the college campus. It doesn't matter which structure you feel you like it better. What matters is how you tell your story. Okay. Now, as opposed to the essays that you've learned how to write in school, those are academic essays. These are personal essays. And because they're personal, you have more flexibility on how to write them, how to arrange the order. You don't have to follow the typical essay structure, right, that they teach us in school. 5 paragraphs, introduction, body, conclusion. You can have way more liberty on how you use how you arrange the order of the paragraphs and stuff, even the length of the paragraphs. So I'm curious if you guys could open the chat and type, which structure do you like best? Narrative or montage? If you could open the chat box here in Zoom and type, what structure do you like best? Narrative or montage? Narrative. Narrative. Montage, I like both. Narrative. Narrative. Montage, Andrea. Okay. Montage, Carla, Miranda, montage. Yes. So let me tell you, as long as you finish the personal statements before September 30th, we should be fine. So right now we are today's August 22nd. So we still have time to try new things, to experiment. If you want to experiment using montage, even though you've never written in that format, it's okay. I'm here to help you. So we can definitely experiment and try new things. So, all right. So we're going to do a series of exercises. Some of you have perhaps already done these exercises. Today, I hope some of these will make sense now. So for this, I'm going to ask for a volunteer. Anyone? You can unmute yourself. Any volunteer? Don't be shy. Come on, guys. Okay, I'm gonna pick someone then. Let's see, Pedro de Hoyos. Okay, so this exercise, and you guys can do this at home as well. So exercise 1, I want you to write a list of random things that you enjoy, that you love, that you enjoy doing, right? So in 1 minute, I'm gonna ask you to type them in the chat box and write as many things as you can write. For example, I love morning coffee. I love reading to my son. I love long walks with my wife while drinking coffee. And random things. They don't have to be academic. Random things that you really enjoy doing. Okay, so I'm gonna set the timer for 1 minute. The rest of you, I would really encourage you to try it yourself at home. Write down random things that you enjoy doing. Okay, time's up. What did you write?
I wrote sidewalks after it's just rained, the way they glisten, the smell of beaches, dry roses, like dramatic pauses, not finishing books, and programming my naps, taking naps.
Great, thanks. I'm looking at the time right now, and unfortunately, we only have 10 more minutes, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I will try to connect. Of course, all of you are gonna get the recording of this video, and I want to move forward with something that is really important that all of you know. But I'm gonna finish this exercise with Pedro to try to identify things that are interesting, that are common, that are personal, and how we can search, right? Right now, Pedro, you said something about books. Can you say that again?
Not finishing books.
Not finishing books. Okay. This is obviously, I'm just making this up based on right now, we have very limited time. But what we could talk about, okay, what are books that you have not finished? And we could go philosophical here and see, okay, what are books that you have not finished in life? Maybe things, projects, and what are those that you did finish? You see, and we could write a montage essay paragraph, and each paragraph could be, we could do an introduction, 4 paragraphs, 1 book per paragraph, and then attach values to each of them. And remember, each paragraph should show a different side of your life. See, so we're trying to find sort of like a canvas that we can use to paint the essay, right? So in the previous example was cartoons, how cartoons influence the life of the of the other student. So here we're trying to find a topic that is personal, meaningful to you. It could be like the books that you haven't finished, like in your case, but we're just trying to find it as a template or as a canvas for us to use it to help the reader visualize something. Okay, now I'm looking at the time and I want to be respectful of the time, but I want to highlight some common mistakes that students make, and I want you guys to avoid them in your writing. Let's see, Marco Munoz, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, could you please read this for us? Number one is called the essay, the trip essay. My trip to blank.
My trip to Blank was fascinating. I had to adjust to a whole new way of life. The first thing I noticed was the food, which was very different, as well as their customs. My adopted family's habits were quite different from everything I'm used for. But by the end of my stay, I had come to accept them. This trip made me appreciate what I have at home and expanded my cultural horizons.
Okay, so what's wrong with, or what's weak about this paragraph? Emily, what's weak about this paragraph? Does it mean that we should not talk about trips? Miranda, Angela, anyone else? Feel free to unmute your mics.
It doesn't give too much insight on what he like learned from the trip. Like, yeah, he says it, but it's like you said, he like show don't tell. He was basically just telling. He wasn't really showing his experience.
Exactly, he was not showing. And here, this part where it says, my trip to blank was fascinating. We could write there in that blank anything. My trip to China was fascinating. My trip to Mexico was fascinating. My trip to San Antonio was fascinating. And it still would sound the same, right? We want to avoid that. We want to be memorable. We want to show, don't tell. We want to balance descriptive and reflective. Remember those elements. So this paragraph obviously is really weak because of that. Common mistake number 2. Let's see. Amy, can you read for us, please? This is the Miss Universe essay.
Yes, in this day and age, environmental problems are very important worldwide topics of discussion. These controversial issues have a great effect on all society. In particular, the depletion of the ozone layer is affecting the future of mankind's habitat. In the last 50 years, the polar ice caps have receded in record amounts.
Okay. What's ineffective about this paragraph? Considering everything that we've already discussed. Does this sound personal?
No, it sounds like more like global, like it's not really talking about herself or him, I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't seem like any personal to me.
And it's called the Miss Universe essay. And when I worked in the Office of Admissions at George Washington University, we would make fun, and we would oftentimes, like, me and my colleagues, we would like get pizza, and we would all be in the same room, like just eating pizza and reading the essays. And sometimes we're like, hey, listen to this. So the Miss Universe essay is the typical like pageant where you hear someone claim to care about a really like global issue, but it's not really affecting him or her, right? Like, this doesn't mean that you cannot talk about global issues. Of course you can, but here we have to make the connection of why is that important to you? Why do you care? How does that affect you? Why is it important to you? So if not, it's going to sound, as Emiliano said, it's really global, really not attached to you. So we want to avoid that mistake. Common mistake number 3, talking about death. It can be the death of a relative, the death of a pet. And this was also a really common trend back in COVID. And obviously, it's a very difficult moment. And death, of course, is something that is really difficult. However, rather than devoting a long paragraph just stating of how difficult it was and how horrible it was, instead, we should mention what you learned from that experience or what you learned from that person who passed away. Okay, this doesn't mean that you cannot talk about death. Of course you can, but the way you do it is equally important. Okay, so focusing more on the lessons rather than the pain. Common mistake number 4, believe it or not, there's a lot of people who talk about the application process itself, and they talk about that. It says in this is the greatest challenge I face. Imagine you having to sit down for hours, nothing comes to mind, 1 yogurt, 2 yogurts, and nothing. Believe it or not, I've read essays where people they talk about how difficult it was to write the essay. Now, I saw your face, Emily. What would you think of that person if you were the admission officer and you would read something like this? ¿Qué pensarías, Emily?
Pues yo pensaría que la persona no, pues la verdad, o sea, no es por ser feita, pero como que no va a aportar nada, porque pues no sabe ni de qué escribir, o sea, no tiene como algo personal de qué escribir.
Exactly. Sí, gracias. Así es. So, okay, so that's pretty much it for now. I'm taking a look at the time, so it's 7 o'clock already. I would like to leave a few minutes for any questions you guys might have. I will definitely keep we're gonna definitely I'm gonna send you the recording of this webinar and the exercises, the brainstorming exercises. So it's really important for those of you who have not done so, please book a session with me so we can take these brainstorming exercises and we can connect them to your life and start really generating ideas for your essays. Okay, so I hope examining these 2 extra essays help you to see a different perspective on how you could tell your story. And remember, I'm here to help you in the process. And I also want to, well, next time we'll talk about hook sentences, and I'll show you the hook sentences. But I also want to invite you to the next webinar, which is going to take place on next Thursday. For those of you who are thinking about applying to UT Austin, I'll be offering a webinar on how to write the supplemental essays for UT. So I invite you to, if you're interested, to register for the webinar. You can reach out to Laura, my assistant, to also register, or scan the QR code and fill out the registration form. Okay. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. And I'm going to leave these 2 minutes for any questions you guys might have. Feel free to write them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. By the way, I'm going to stop the recording for now.